Welcome back to another episode of the MindShare Podcast. This is where we share strategies and insights to help you work smarter, build stronger relationships, and create the success that you deserve. This show is proudly sponsored by Kit's Keep in Touch Systems, your ultimate marketing lead generation CRM. REM, Real Estate Magazine, Canada's trusted source for real estate news and insights. And Revel Realty, redefining real estate with bold marketing, cutting-edge training, and a culture that empowers success. Learn more about our sponsors and download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle at mindshare101.com. And while you're there, explore how a full range of services can help take your business to the next level. From one-to-one coaching for personalized growth, the MindShare Collective group coaching for community-driven success, momentum training to build unstoppable progress, and keynote speaking to inspire and motivate your team. We are here to help you elevate your game. And while you're at it, learn more about joining the revolution to experience the bold new way that real estate is being redefined. Today's episode is number 332. And we're diving into branding with impact to help you build a real estate business that people know, like, and trust. She is the founder of Post and Beam Creative, host of the Know You Like You or Know Like Trust for Real Estate podcast, a nationally recognized speaker, and a sought-after consultant in the industry. Inman News has recognized her as a marketing all-star and a finalist for the Inman Innovator Awards for her groundbreaking work in podcasting. And with decades of experience in real estate, franchising, brokerage, and consumer packaged goods, she empowers real estate professionals to achieve success without sacrificing authenticity. She awakens your superpower and helps craft visual branding and marketing strategies that amplify your personal brands, leading to a 25 to 40% increase in sales. So if you've been struggling to find your voice, stand out from the noise, or show up consistently, this one's for you. Joining me on this episode of the MindShare Podcast is special guest, Christine George. Christine, welcome to the MindShare Podcast.
Oh my God, David. So great to be here. What an introduction. Holy
I
cow.
flubbed that though. I want to restart that because I didn't, the whole, I was like, know you, like you, trust you. And I'm like, whoa. And it just started rhyming, but it was good.
Right.
Know, like, trust for real estate podcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that's exactly what I tried to do today. I was like, you know what? We're going to take that. We're going to title this whole thing Branding with Impact, how to build a real estate business that people know, like, and trust.
Absolutely. That's what our business is all about, right? Building those relationships. Building that trust.
But it's amazing how many people sort of look at this business and they're like, yeah, I'm just going to go out there. I'm going to knock on a door and somebody's going to want to buy, or I'm going to put out, a lead or like an ad and somebody's just going to call me. And
yeah,
no, they're not.
It's not how it works.
It doesn't work like that, right?
No, it's all about performance. I mean, you've got to perform to build the trust of the people.
Yeah.
And that's how your business grows.
That's, and it takes so much more effort than people truly think it does.
Yes.
Like here, just to get everybody started here, like you've had a pretty powerful journey through real estate, branding, podcasting. Give us like a quick background, a quick story of how did all this come together? What led to, I guess, even founding Post and Beam Creative?
Yeah. So, I got bit by that real estate bug back in 2008 when I came into the business. Prior to that, I was in consumer product goods. I worked for big companies like Nestle, Gillette, which is, part of P&G at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really where I learned how to run a business, from a cross-functional perspective. And I learned sort of that corporate speak, right? And when I came into real estate in 2008, I came to work for Remax Integra, which at the time was based out of Mississauga up in Canada. And I oversaw all of the promotions for Remax of New England, which essentially our job was to help the broker owners recruit and retain and build their business. And I just got that bug and had this great appreciation for all of the entrepreneurs in our business. And I mean, how can you not appreciate people who get up every single day and go and hunt for their business? Like, you're not getting paid if you don't bring business in. And so it was a completely different model than I was used to coming from CPG. And so 7 years with Integra, and I went to work for, at the time, it was Integra's largest franchise in New England. And they ended up leaving Remax and becoming an independent. So I helped them reposition themselves, rebrand themselves as an independent in the New England market. And then after 7 years of that, I said, I think I want to do this on a broader scale. I want to be able to have an impact on more people than the 215 I was working with at Leading Edge. And so Post and Beam Creative was born. And here we
Very cool.
later.
It's interesting you bring this up. I was having this conversation with a client earlier today on one of our coaching calls, and he's not in the real estate business. He used to be. And we talked about creating that constant in terms of revenue,
Mhm.
and how in the job that he had prior, being a realtor, it's hunting. You're hunting
Yeah.
all the time. You don't know
Yeah.
when that next deal is coming from. And the position that he's got now, although he still has a structure around sales and driving business growth, there is more of a constant that's there. And it's a very different mindset when you are getting up and you know that you've got dollars coming in regardless. And you still
Yes.
got to get up and do your work, but it's coming.
Yeah.
It's totally different when you're like, hey, I got to get up and hunt today. And I love the
It-
fact that you use that word, because I believe so much that we're not in a business of order takers. We're in a business of hunters. And if you're a hunter, you can win this game. You can have
Mhm.
success in this game.
Yeah.
But that also comes from, building the relationships, as we were saying. Now, that phrase, know, like, trust, we know what that means. I mean, talk about powerful. Your podcast leads with it, and I want to talk more about that shortly. But what does that idea of know, like, trust mean to you? Like, how does that help? How do you think that mindset or that way of thinking or doing or operating every day is so strong? How does that help people build their brands?
Yeah, it's such a great question. So, at the end of every podcast interview that I do on the
Yeah.
Know Like Trust pod, my very last question to my guests is, finish this sentence. Know like trust
Oh.
is. So remember that, because now you're going to be able to prep for that when you
You know
come on
what?
the show.
I'm totally going to, because it's funny. Like, you put that out there, I'm like, oh my God, what would I say?
Exactly. And nobody knows it's coming. And so they hear it, and everybody has to pause for a minute. So what does know like trust mean to me? And over the 3-4 years now, we've been doing the pod, because the pod's actually older than Post and Beam Creative.
Right.
We have some amazing answers. Not one of them has ever been the same. And we're 110 episodes in. And so it's so interesting, because everybody's got a different perspective around it. And, my perspective on it is that it's essential in growing a long-term sustainable business. Especially in our industry, because we are so relationship driven that, it's so important to be able to making sure that you build that trust with people, because if they trust you, if they know you, they like you, and they trust you, and all three of those are important, then they'll continue to come back, and they'll refer you, and they'll be your ambassadors. But the second you break that trust, you lose them for life too. And it's one of the things about real estate professionals that baffles me is I see even today, with 1.5 million real estate professionals in the United States, you see people who take their clients for granted, and they don't communicate. They're not highly responsive. So, and I'm not sure if you saw, NAR published, I think it's 80%, which is not a big surprise, of all of the agents are, or 20% of the agents are doing 80% of the business.
Oh, it doesn't surprise me at all. We had
But-
numbers come out from the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board, which is one of the biggest boards in North America, that said it last year in 24, 76% of agents registered to the board did not do a single deal.
Which is unbelievable. I think actually, David, you and I talked about this when we chatted a couple of weeks back. We were like, the barrier to entry is so low.
Oh, it's brutal. Like, look, and I'm the first one to say it. Like, and I'll say to anybody who's tuned in right now, like, if you aren't doing things properly, running this like a business, you're in the wrong business. Bye, get out.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh my God, I can't. That's really jarring. I can't believe you're not supporting them. No, I support everybody.
Yeah.
I'm here to. That's what we do at MindShare
Yeah.
101. We help you develop the business system. We help you develop the know you, like you, trust you.
Yeah.
But you got to have the right headspace for this all. You have to understand what you got into,
Yeah.
not just the opportunity for like freedom and flexibility and making a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
Yes, that is all there. That is all completely possible.
Yes.
But if you're not running it like a business and you're not treating it properly like a business, whether you're with P&G or you're in real estate as a hunter,
Yeah.
you're not going to succeed.
No.
You're just not. Now, look, we talked to know you, like you, trust you factor, and that's going to be a running theme through everything we do today for sure. You know, and I agree with you completely. Like, you know, you can build trust very easily. Pardon me. It takes time to build trust, a lot of time. You can break it very easily. And once it's gone, getting it back is probably next to impossible. It's not impossible, but it's like really, really difficult because that seed of doubt is always there.
Yeah.
You know, and people don't recognize how much, you know, what it really means to get people to trust you.
Yes.
Like I could run around and put my ads all over online or all over the billboards on the road, and you could know who I am because you keep seeing the name.
Yeah. And I think too, in today's day and age, people don't give other people grace at all. Like you mess up once.
Yeah.
You mess up for life. Like
Yeah.
people are not forgiving like they maybe once were, you know, and you see it with celebrities, right? It's the phone, right?
It's the connectivity that we have that we never used to have that presents quicker opinions, quicker decisions.
Yes.
Less substance to any of that, right? Like it just sort of happens. We fall like sheep, and it's not a good thing whatsoever. I've been talking about that, especially in our industry for years. You know, stop being sheeple, right?
Yeah.
You've really got to stop and think for yourself for a moment. What's good for me, and not just for me. I don't want to sound self-serving there. What's good for the people around me? How does that help all of us? What does that do to benefit us, right? And that comes back to what you said about wanting to help more than the 215 people that were there. Let's go bigger. Right. And that's our big mission. You know, in saying that, we work hard to develop a know you, like you, and then earn the trust you. But then it's incredible, Christine. I'm sure you can attest to this one too. Like how hard we work to earn the know you, like you, trust you. We work even harder to keep it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like it's like you can't just get it and say, okay, we're good.
No, you have to keep showing up.
Yeah.
You have to keep showing up and leveling up every single time. And you have to keep your word. And when you make a mistake, you need to own it.
So, okay, where does that tie into the topic of something like a personal brand? And how important is that personal branding? Like, and just before I say that, I'll preface this by saying, like, you know, 20 years ago or something, there were companies out there going like, well, and this was before the online and the socials and all the connectivity. We're going to brand you. We're going to build all these brandings for you, do all this stuff for you. And everybody's like, oh my God. And we'll take a brand such as, because you brought them up, you were there with them with Remax. People are going away from the typical red, white, and blue, changing their branding, changing the colors, even starting to introduce different logos. And I thought for a time going, I can see some of the reasoning why, but at the same time too, like when you're with a brand that's completely reputable and has the know you, like you, trust you already established, leverage that.
Yeah.
Now I'm of a mixed bag going, Christine, if I know you, I like you, and I trust you, I don't care what color your hat is.
Yeah.
I just want you.
Yeah.
So where would you tie the two in together, you know, when it comes to branding? It's like, should people continue to be branding themselves? Is it really important? What's your thoughts on it?
You know, it's so interesting because I Like You was, and I think there was a time for big box brands like Remax, like Coldwell Banker. Certainly those brands will never die. They're, you know, they're global brands. They have great support for their agents, right? And I think they're also awesome brands for newer agents who don't have a reputation yet. But, you know, the largest big box brands out there now are EXP, Real, and these are brands that, you know, they're not super tied, or tethered to putting the brand out there to the consumer, they realize that it's kind of like your hairstylist, right? Like, you don't care what salon they work in. You're going to follow them wherever they go if they do a good job for you. It's the same thing. If you're a real estate agent, it's that relationship with the real estate agent that you have, not with the big brand.
Right.
And I think that the brand can support the agent, but when it comes to know, like, trust and personal branding, it's you, the agent, who is building that brand with the consumer, not the Remaxes or the Coldwell Bankers and the EXPs of the world and the Reals. Those are companies that recognize that, like I said, and are not staying tethered to making that brand come to life at the market. They are tethered to making that agent the best that they can be so that they can build relationships in the market.
So I like the point. I like the point there, because we are seeing a changing of the guards when it comes to what you said, big box. I think we are seeing that need for people to be out there, because there are so many other options available out there now, that there is an importance of building up, yours. I love the analogy with the hairdresser.
Yeah.
It hits home. Like, I mean, I post it all the time when I'm at the hairdresser. One, because he's a buddy of mine. I want to help him promote his business. That's probably the biggest reason why I post it. But like, when I tell you that he's owned his place for 20 years, and I remember, meeting him at the first place he worked at when he swept floors, and he told me one day he's going to own his own place, and other places, like one of the best places there is, and he's amazing.
Yeah.
I said to him, like, if you stop cutting hair, I will be cousin it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's true, right? Like, it's true that when you find that, you will follow, but you have to, on the flip side of that, being the business owner, you have to create that. So in talking about creating that, what would you say is the biggest mistake that you see agents making when it comes to the idea of branding? Consistency.
By far, consistency. And when I say consistency, I'm not 100% talking about logos and colors and fonts.
You're talking my language.
Those things are important, but they are one small piece of the overall pie. And when I think about consistency, I mean the way you show up, your body language, your tone of voice, the language you use, the critical thinking, your integrity, and of course your logo and your colors and your fonts. Those things are important.
Piece of it. Yeah.
But it's the whole package, and you have to be consistent day in and day out. And it's no different from creating, a routine in the morning or for the day. Like, you're going to get up, you're going to exercise, you're going to make your calls, you're going to reach out to past clients, you're going to, service your current customers, you're going to do your marketing. The same way that you set up structure and routine in your life it's the same for running your business and how you're showing up in your business. You have to do it consistently. And I think so many agents sometimes, and I get it, they get so bored, right? Like so many of us, we've got this ADHD because we're so used to, the shiny object, the squirrel, right? And they get bored with their logo or their colors or whatever. And they get caught up in the shiny object and they stray. And anytime you're not showing up consistently, you're diluting your brand completely. And so the best way to build your brand and become memorable and unforgettable is to be consistent across every aspect of your business.
I love what you've brought up here around consistency. And it's not just about the colors and logos. That's just a piece of it. In one of our trainings that we do through our momentum training program, we talk a lot about that, right? It's like finding your voice, creating your brand.
Yes.
And understanding it's about the interpersonal connection.
Yes.
It is about the marketing, and it's about that entire experience.
Yes.
With the whole process, right?
Yes.
It's the experience. Like, are they getting, see what you get what you see kind of thing? If you see me on my videos and on my podcast and on my social media and you meet me in person, am I going to be the same guy? You better believe I'm going to be the same guy.
Yes.
And that's part of what the brand pulls in, because now we come back to the know you, like you, trust you. right? I know who he is, or I know who she is. You know, I like him, and I'll say there's a lot of people that don't like me. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but I'm not trying to be. And that's the way the world works.
Yes.
Don't try to be everything to everybody.
And so many people are so afraid to put their true self out there because they're afraid of rejection, or they're afraid they're going to lose that next deal. And the fact of the matter is that you are not everybody's cup of tea. And maybe it's good that you lost that deal because maybe it wasn't a good fit, you know? You're better
Have you ever let a
off.
client go?
You know, that's so funny you ask. Like, I have.
I've
Twice.
done it.
I have.
It's
I've
an
done it
awkward
twice.
feeling.
It's a terrible feeling, but at the
It's
same
awkward.
time, you can do it with professionalism and dignity, and it doesn't have to be contentious at all. When you open the conversation and you show up in that conversation aligned with your values, then that conversation doesn't have to go off the rails. It can be a very professional, open conversation where you agree that it's just not a good fit, and that's okay.
I think it's a time saver for everybody involved.
Yes.
You know, it really is. It really is. So when I was reading off your bio, we said something about, you know, helping agents find their superpower. I'm curious, because it's funny. Like, we talk about superpower and people think of Superman and Batman and, you know, Marvel Comics and all this stuff. And I love it. Like, I love the play off of it. We've taught courses about, you know, and done topics in the podcast and in our mastermind about, you know, finding your alter ego.
Yeah.
How do you help an agent uncover the superpower? Like, how do you define that for them? And like, what does that process really look like for that?
Yeah. So I feel like your superpower is your DNA, right?
Okay.
It is that thing that makes you unique. And David, you can be energizing, you can be motivating, you can be smart, responsive. We can all be all of those things. But at the end of the day, whatever your opinion is, or whatever way you go about doing your business, is the way you do it. And nobody else does it like you. Right. And so that is the thing that people are either going to be attracted to or attracted away from. Right. And so what I do in my framework, I have a framework. I love like organizing things into buckets. And so it's a 3-bucket framework where we awaken your superpower, activate it, and then amplify it. So my favorite part of this whole framework is really digging deep in that awaken stage, which is where, you know, I go deep with a client and to understand what they are all about, what makes them tick, what makes them strong, what are the things that, you know, that are not so strong about them. What do their clients think of them? Like, what is the experience like to work with them? I go deep. I talk to clients, I talk to staff members, I talk to team members, because I really want to get into a very intimate place to understand what that DNA is, or what that superpower is. Because once you know that, everything else flows. And we're sitting, you know, in it. So it's so hard for us to see that in ourselves. Right. And so it really takes an outsider to ask the right questions. And then we can lay it all out and say, well, man, David, you are an amazing coach. Like, you not only motivate people, but you give them the confidence to next level their business. And so we're going to create a program for you that helps to focus on those strengths, because that's your superpower. And so we forget about all the other BS, because the part of the problem with being an entrepreneur or a solopreneur is you have to be, you know, the chief cook and bottle washer. You've got to do everything in your business. And that can be A, overwhelming, and B, paralyzing. And so if you know what your superpower is, and you have an execution plan behind that superpower, then it's almost like giving yourself permission to let everything else go. Some of the stuff that's important, you delegate it, you outsource it, fine, great. But focus on what you do, because when you do it, it makes it rain.
You know, it's how you said about, being comfortable with who you are, and that fear of rejection, that fear of not being accepted. I think everybody runs through that fear. And I know that that's been always a driving force around when we talk about social media, we talk about video, we talk about
Yes.
podcasting, put yourself out there, talk to people. Oh my God, I'm so scared of what they're going to think. I'm scared of what
Yeah.
they're going to say. Put an email out there, send an email blast to your clients about, what's going on with the market right now. Ooh, I don't know. Why? They're scared if they're going to be wrong. And look, we know that fear is like one of, if not the biggest motivator in life, or maybe demotivator, depending on how you slice that one, right? But the reality is, fear will stop most people from doing most of anything they want
Yes.
because of what if.
Yeah. The unknown.
And it truly is amazing when you can get past that. So if you can pull out that superpower, which that's why I love, I just love the idea of it.
Yeah.
It feels powerful.
Yeah.
It gives you the okay to be who you are.
Yes.
I
Yes.
remember one of my mentors, when I said to him, I said, I said certain things to him about, the way I operate and the things I do on stage and the way I carry myself and everything else. And I said, I really want to do this, but I do that. And he goes like, well, why? He goes, why do you lie to your audience? I'm like, what? He's like, why are you lying to your audience? I'm like, what do you mean lying to my audience? He goes, well, you want to show up like this, but you're showing up like that.
Wow.
So if that's really you, why aren't you there? And you're like, oh, and you're talking such a fine little line.
Yes.
Right? Such a fine little line. But the reason you're going from one side is because you're going, well, I really want to be accepted by the people that maybe, are thinking about accepting me or not accepting me. Whereas when we come back to what we said a few minutes ago about, choosing the client, and sometimes it just isn't the right fit, and you can do it. You're allowed to say people ain't working.
Right.
When you you sort of look at it that way as well. It's like, hold on a second. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I actually cross that line and I do step into that version of me, which I need to put it out there right now to everybody. I am genuinely doing that. I don't hide anything. I don't. Most people I think could tell that when they work with me or listen to the content and watch the videos, but it's a fine line.
It
And when you
is.
do step over to that other side of it, you actually find another level of comfort, another level of success.
And confidence. And people, that fine line, you're so right. Like, it is a very, very thin line.
Yeah.
And you know what? People might not know exactly, they might not be able to pinpoint what the difference is, but they can tell when you're on this side of it or when you're on this side of it, and when you're truly yourself, because your whole energy changes, right?
I think that when it's like seeing a business card picture or a social media profile photo and then meeting the person in person and be like,
who's that?
Who's that guy? Or who's that girl? Like, who's that?
Yeah.
When you can pull it off that you are, the same everywhere.
Yeah.
You've hit that level of when we come back to know you, like you, trust you. There's where a big part of the trust you gets established. Now, once somebody figures out their superpowers, they know who they are. We've talked about this idea of the branding. We're talking about the know you, like you, trust you. You've already hit home on the fact that a brand is not just about the colors and logos. And it's like, I say the same thing all the time. That is just not it. It's so much more about the idea of building mind share.
Yeah.
So you get the market share. What would you suggest, though, are those most important brand elements? And this could be back, Christine, you could answer this and say, it's your voice, not the way you project your voice, but it's like the things you say. Maybe it is part of the way you say it. It's the way you operate.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
sorry, trying to pinpoint for people when they're listening to you and I talk right now.
Yeah.
Going, so hold on. Okay. Where do I go next?
Yeah. It's such a great question because it's not, so I can say to you, well, that second sort of piece in the framework, which is activate, is where we go deep in terms of figuring out what your visual identity looks like, which, easy enough. Like, you can visualize that, what that is, what logos are, all of that stuff. That's fine. Voice is another thing. And I teach my clients, okay, what do you look like? What do you sound like? What do you wear? How do you speak to your clients? What's your tone of voice? That stuff is a little bit more ambiguous, a little harder to sort of define, but we do that work because, content, your content
Mhm.
guide is very important. What language do you use? And ChatGPT is great for this. You can go in and say, whenever you're prompting ChatGPT for anything as it relates to marketing, emails, anything like that, you can actually go into the settings in ChatGPT and say, this is my tone of voice. These are words that I would never use. These are words that I always use. So though, you can teach ChatGPT to speak like you in that way. So that's a piece of it. But then, it's teaching somebody that consistency, which is really important and not as easily executable.
Mhm.
That's where the accountability comes in. And that's where people need a coach like you to, once they've laid everything out, then how does David keep me accountable for all of these things? I mean, that activation piece doesn't mean anything unless you're living it. And so that's a big piece of it.
So important. Great point on that. Very good point on that. Because that's what it could, like, I love that last little tip right there of you've got to be living it.
Yeah.
You have to be, and you've got to be comfortable with who you are, what you bring to the table, what your voice is, how you carry yourself. This is again, we're like, again, Christine, we're coming back to that. Know you, like you, trust you the entire time here.
Yeah.
How do you
Yeah.
continue to build it? It is find you, and then it is leverage that, those different channels that are out there,
Yeah.
to get that message across. And I mean, I say to people all the time from again, accountability perspective, how many emails has gone out this month? And there
Yeah.
is a structure that we create with people around a content strategy that says, hey, there's going to be X amount of emails going out this month. Here's the date that they're going to go out. Here's the date that you're going to write them. They go. That's just email.
Yeah.
Now we look to social media.
Yeah.
We look to what we're doing with our phone calls and the in-person stuff and how we're coming
Yeah.
across if you're doing a blog or a podcast or,
Yes.
I mean, there's so many different little facets of the channel. But again, if
Yeah.
if all of that can be consistent
Yes.
in the execution, now
Yes.
you're getting that voice out there, right?
Yeah, totally. You and I were talking in the green room about McDonald's.
Yep.
And McDonald's is a great example of consistency. Coca-Cola is another one, right? Like these are global brands
Mhm.
that were built on the basis that they provided a reliable and consistent product and service. No matter where you go, you know what you're going to get when you walk into a McDonald's.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's the same thing. Like if you are, Susie real estate agent, you want to make sure that no matter what situation you're in, people are going to get the same level of service, attention, whatever it might be, experience. And that is the thing that builds the know, like, trust and a really memorable personal brand.
I use Coke, Nike, and McDonald's all the time in presentations to really hit home on the point of like what is MindShare.
Yeah.
And then at the same time too, to bring back up to people when they say, oh, but and I just said multiple emails a month. I'd be, oh, I don't want to bombard my people. Did Nike, Coke, or McDonald's ever worry about bombarding you?
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, there's that fine line of like, what does that look like? But at the same time, if you can find the right voice and you can find the right consistency and you can deliver value and
Yes.
you're building it off relationship, not just transactional,
Yes.
there is an opportunity to be out there with people and actually, get that word out there. Now, if I said that to you and I said, it's not like everybody has all the money in the world, like Nike, Coke, and McDonald's to be able to do all these things. But when you have a budget, you're working on a budget, and it comes to the sort of idea of branding, it comes to the idea of getting our voice out there and really building that. Are there any tools or platforms or anything that you specifically recommend that people use? It could be to, create that brand look. It could be to create or get that brand voice out there. Is there anything to you that's like, oh, here's my top 3, here's a must?
Yeah. My top 3 are Canva. I mean, and you've probably heard that from a million people before. I mean, Canva is just a great way from a design perspective to do, all of your collateral, whether
Yeah.
it's digital or off or print.
It's amazing. You don't have to be a Photoshop pro anymore.
You don't.
Oh, it's so true.
You absolutely don't. Google, I mean, the Google Suite, I use that for all of my organization. And then, oh my God, why am I blanking on the last one? I'm totally.
I know you mentioned ChatGPT a moment ago, just as a co-pilot.
For sure. For sure. As your assistant. And I just, of course, Constant Contact is my email service provider.
Gotcha.
Those, if all I had to run my business were those 3 things or 4 things, I would be fine.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. So what's your take then on, and I mean, I think I already get what your take is on a positive note. But when it comes to content marketing for realtors, and people in the industry, is there a difference to what we're doing today than we were doing 2 years ago, than 5 years ago? Is it a big part of it? Like, I mean, just when you're speaking with clients and recommending things to people, thoughts on the whole social idea? Yeah.
Well, so now I will tell you, Katie Lance is one of my best friends.
Katie actually says, "What's up?" She's been watching us live on YouTube. So thank you, Katie. We love you.
I love you, Katie.
She's amazing.
She will tell you herself, she is a social media strategist, and she will tell you that social media is rented ground. And you've seen it in the last year. I mean, there's a threat of TikTok going away. Instagram has been down. Facebook has been down. Those platforms, we don't own them. And so while they're very important and very effective, and we need to be there and be present, in my opinion, the one thing that will never go away, the most powerful tool is email. And people will say, oh my God, email's been around since the 90s. Like, email's a thing of the past. It's absolutely not a thing of the past. When you do it correctly, email has the highest ROI than any other platform that I've ever come across. It's $36 for every dollar spent. And the reason for that is your database. You own that database. Yep. Those people have already opted in. They want to hear from you. It's already a warm lead or a warm relationship. And so your challenge is to create content within that platform that adds value, that relates, that is personal, and that will encourage people to engage with you in conversation. So that's my favorite platform.
Okay. So if I said then, okay, so we're building out this brand, this voice, this comfort level that I've got with me, I'm trying to connect with more people. Again, know you, like you, trust you. What would you suggest to people when we talk about like sort of an effective kind of high impact content strategy when it comes to email without kind of burnout? Because I know sometimes we can either burn ourselves out trying to write it and get it done.
Yeah.
And we can burn out our readers if we're just coming at them too much or with the wrong information.
I don't think it has to be complicated. I think if you're going to do nothing else, have a regular newsletter. I have one that I send out every Sunday morning at 6 a.m. Every week. People know that, and they can expect it in their inbox. I don't think if you're a real estate professional, you have to do one every week. If you like to write, if you have something to talk about and you enjoy it, do it. But I think you can do one once a month. I think that is plenty to get into those inboxes and stay top of mind with your sphere of influence. If you've got something, unusual or unique or something new to share, then a dedicated email on top of that newsletter is really important. I send one out every time I drop a new podcast episode, or if I have some news to share. And then if you want to get even more sophisticated, then you can build sales funnels. So anytime maybe you have a lead magnet that you want to, give somebody something for free in exchange for their email, then you can put a number of emails together to continue to stay top of mind, continue to bring more value to them, and hopefully convert them into, a client, a paying customer. But that doesn't have to come right away. If you're just starting out, a regular, consistent email newsletter is something that you can do without a lot of fuss, and something I highly recommend.
And so when it comes to sort of that personal content versus the, property marketing content, is there a certain ratio you try to work off of? Is there a certain balance that you put between sort of like,
Yeah.
again, I guess
Yeah.
those two different types?
It's a great question. So you want to think about, if I was reading this newsletter, would I want to read the whole thing, or would I not even open it? Like, what do I want to see from this person? And everybody loves beautiful homes, right? Like, look at
Yeah.
HGTV, look at, Architectural Digest. If you've got a beautiful home, or, a makeover that you want to share, people love that stuff. So get in there and talk about what you do for a living in that way. Use a lot of images, use a lot of color, but also bring something personal to the table. If you play in a rock band on the weekends, talk about where you're going to be playing. If you've just,
But hold on, how does that serve my purpose in real estate?
because it's building that know, like, and trust, right?
Yep, exactly.
You and I were talking in the green room about your kids, and,
Yep.
you're traveling all over for your son's baseball. Like, I want to know that stuff. That makes you relatable to me.
But there it is, because you may just have a kid that's playing baseball that you go, oh my God. And you might say, oh, my son's so young, he's not there yet, but he's getting into it. Or my son graduated already and he already went through it. What questions do you have? Like, you never know. Right.
Exactly.
I have met so many people. Like I love my Harley. I like to get out for a ride. And
I love that.
Oh my God. But I've met so many people who you're like, oh my God, wait, you have a bike? What kind of bike do you have?
Yes.
And next thing you know, you're talking motorcycles, or you're
Yes.
talking baseball, or you're talking whatever. And now, know you, like you,
Yes.
trust you's building. Now we come back to the opportunity to get in the real estate deal. And
Yes.
people are like, oh yeah, let's do this. Why? Because they
Yes.
like you. They
And
they've
on
developed
that human level, right? We're
There it is,
human
right?
first.
There it is. So let me ask you this then. When we talk to this stuff, is there something that you think is overlooked that agents are not necessarily leveraging, or not leveraging properly? And you just mentioned email, so that's definitely
Yeah.
there. That might
Yeah.
be the one, but that agents can use, they can do now, they can implement now, that is going to help build more of that trust when it comes to like the online world. Because I think in person, I mean, look, if you're a complete asshole, like even if you're in person, you're not getting the business. But if you've connected with people well there, and you're just going, but I'm just not this like techie, social, or online phone person.
Well, I'll tell you
what can somebody do?
I'll tell you one of the biggest mistakes I think people make in this business, and this isn't not online.
Yeah. Okay.
Is they send too many of these dang postcards out. And they
like the farming ones?
Oh my God. Like the, just listed, just sold, I can't even tell you how many I get in my mailbox every single day. They all look the same. And they all have the same sort of cheesy, if you're looking to buy or sell, give me a call. Like, that does not build know, like, trust. I'm sorry. It just doesn't. And you're killing a lot of trees, and you're spending a whole lot of money. And what are you getting for it? Are you really getting listings out of that? Like, I don't know any agent. I've been in this business 17 years who gets a ton of business from sending postcards out.
I'll tell you.
Right?
I'll tell you. I have asked this question thousands of times. And it could be on stages to thousands of people. It could be on a podcast to one individual. It could be to a coach and client. But like, bottom line is, how many people here door knock? And 96% of people do not.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so there's 4% of you that do. And especially when you're in a room in an audience, you can do this where you say, okay, keep your hands up if you do it. Now everybody look around, and they look around, they see like a few hands up. And they all sit there nodding, going, ha, see, doesn't work. I'm like, all right, keep your hands in the air, though.
Yeah.
You say to them, you say, how many of you who do door knock, of the 4% who door knock, how many of you see business? Keep your hands up. Then I get everybody in the room to look around. The same people still have their hands in the air.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Why? Because it's the door knock. It's the real human connection.
Yeah.
Which, if you're going to send the postcards, this is how you support those without burning your money, because otherwise don't send them. And I'm the
Yeah.
first guy to tell people that all the time, because our kits business, which is a marketing company, people will call up, hey, I want to do door flyers. Oh, really? How many would you like to do? I want to do X amount of flyers. Great. And you start talking to people about the flyers, and you start asking, like, are you going to door knock? And they say, no, I'm not going to door knock. I would never door knock. Say, great. We don't want to sell you the flyers. They're like, what? Well, why would I sell you the flyers if you're not going to door knock? They're like, what do you mean? Like, well, you're going to come back to me in a couple months. You're going to tell me it didn't work. They're going to have to tell you didn't work.
Yeah.
But I don't want you telling people my stuff doesn't work. So I'm just going to stop that ahead of time and make sure that you don't send them.
Yeah.
So it's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'll back that up by going, if you get out there and meet people and you actually create connections with people, real connections, know you, like you, trust you.
Yeah.
Then that stuff can have a place.
Yes.
But if you're not going to support it, don't bother sending it.
Yes.
Real quickly here, I had a lady today who knocked on the door at the house this morning and rang the bell. I opened up the door. She was already gone. I started like walking down the steps, and I figured I'm not going to bother calling you. What'd you leave? She left this little 8.5 by 11 piece of paper folded, letter fold. I opened it up and it's photocopied, and it says, dear homeowner, and it's got the real estate company on it. We have we have a serious buyer looking in your neighborhood for a 4 or 5 bedroom home. Doesn't matter any condition. If you'd like to have a free home evaluation, the whole pitch. And I thought, what did you really expect to come out of that?
Exactly.
I mean, it's not even an expensive postcard. She literally photocopied 8.5 by 11 paper,
Yes.
Pressed copy $500 or whatever she did. But like, your time, your effort, why?
Yeah.
Why didn't you wait for me to open the door?
I know. Well, David, I encourage, that's a great example. Like, I encourage people, instead of doing that, take 5 houses a week and do the home evaluation.
Yeah.
Like, do the home valuation.
Yep.
And write a note and send it to them, and then follow up with a phone call.
Oh my God, Christine, that's so much work.
How is it more work? Right? It's like, yeah.
I'm with you. To me, like that's jarring. If I'm like, hey, Christine, I know you thought your house was worth, what a random numbers here, 750, but it's actually today, in this market only worth 500. And you're like, whoa. Be like, listen, the 750 was 3 years ago. But if you want to talk about how we got to this number, and obviously there's different ways to say this, but the point is, it's jarring.
Yes.
To say to somebody, hey, you want to have a conversation about this? Let me know.
Well, right. Imagine being a homeowner too, and you open up that package and it's like, 25 pages.
Yep.
With the comps and
that's different. Very
all
different
the data, right? You're like,
love
wow,
that.
This person spent some time.
Okay, so wait, I asked you about online and you and I went offline, and I like it because I'm with you. That's so much what it's about. Is there something that's just as is there something missing that's online as well? I'm trying to gather the question here. It's like,
David, I think people do the same thing online. Like, they post and run.
Okay, I like this. Yep.
Right? Like, they just post and run, and then they say, okay, I did it, right?
Gotcha.
And nothing's happening. It's the same thing. Like, you got to email, you got to have an online social media strategy, and you have to have an offline strategy. And all of those things need to talk to each other, right? They need to be in sync. And so you can't just post and run. You can't, what do they call it? Ding dong ditch. You can't
like my buddy's kids do to our door.
Exactly.
Or my son's kids, my son's buddies. Oh my God, my son's buddies. That's what I meant to say.
Yes, you can't do that stuff. Like, you've got to stay. And that is that piece. Like, that's the gap between doing it and then, like, it's like that small piece, that small pause, that pregnant pause, right? Of discomfort. That's like, oh God, what if they reject me? It's like, no, you've got to choose to sit in the discomfort and then have the conversation when the door opens, right? And if they reject you, so be it.
Yeah.
But you're a real estate agent. That's what they're really good at. They're really good at having conversations. They just get really scared, you know?
Well, it's like Katie says all the time. You have to engage with people,
Yes.
right? You can't just post it and move on, post and run, like you said. You have
Yeah.
to actually have conversations. And to me, that's the beauty of the social media platform, is the ability to have a lot of conversations, but you've
Yes.
got to take the time to do it. It's got to be strategic. Now, as we talk to
Yeah.
online, let's talk podcasting for a minute, because you've got your own podcast. I've got my podcast. We both know the amount of time and effort that goes into it.
Yeah.
I'd ask you, have you seen your podcast, drastically change your business? Has it just been a support mechanism? And I don't want to downplay it if it hasn't driven tons and tons of revenue. Moreover, though, you mentioned earlier the email newsletter, I think, said Sunday at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
The podcast is Wednesday at 1 p.m. It syndicates on Friday at 5 a.m. Right. So it's that
Yeah.
consistency of
Yes.
how it gets out there. But for
Yeah.
you, how have you seen the podcast impact the business?
Well, it's a huge business development piece for me, right? For a lot of reasons. One, it helps me to build relationships with people like you.
Mhm.
And
Likewise.
that relationship aside, I learn something. Like, I am a very curious, like I feel like I'm a lifelong learner, right? Like, and anytime I can have a conversation with somebody, I'm learning something. And so it's building the relationship. It's learning something that, will give me a new perspective for my business. And ultimately, I'm also, and then which is really the goal, is helping my community also build their business because of the intellectual capital of the people that are on my podcast, and they're providing, marketing value and entrepreneurial value to my community. And so, whether I get, 1,000 or 1,000,000 subscribers or downloads, it really doesn't matter to me. The thing that matters to me is that I get to build a relationship with you. I get to gain a new perspective, and I can get to give something of value to my constituents as well.
Yeah, no, I like that. So then let me ask you then, for anybody that's tuned in, because I know a few years ago it became a thing that we started the podcasting thing like prior to 2020. I know I did. It sounds like how many years are you now?
22.
Okay, cool. And I also saw a lot of agents get into it around that time thinking they wanted to do it, but they've fallen off. They don't keep it up, and they're not consistent with it.
Yeah.
For agents thinking about starting one, what advice would you give them? And I know we could do an entire show on just podcasting itself, but
Yeah.
moreover, like if they were like, yeah, I think I want to start a podcast, and there's probably hasn't been a ton of structure and thinking that's come from that. For you, what kind of advice would you give them around that? Like, go for
Well,
it, don't go for it, the approach they take, like
I,
just
so I think you've got to find your form, right? Like your format that works for you. Like, Katie's so good at video. She just does such
yeah.
a phenomenal job. And talk about consistency. She's been doing her Wednesday drops, I don't know, for a decade now, for a really long time. I don't love doing video. It just isn't I don't mind being on video and having a conversation with you, but to do video every week, it just feels very daunting to me. However, I love to get on a Zoom like this, or StreamYard in this case, or a Facebook Live, and have a conversation with somebody. That to me energizes me. And so I have found that podcast and blogging, like I like to write as well.
Mhm.
Those two things they work for me. They align with who I am. And because of that, I know that I'll be consistent in publishing them on a regular basis. So I think when it comes to podcasting or video or writing, you don't have to do all three, but you've got to lean into the one that really aligns with bringing you joy. Like, what energizes you? And if it's not bringing you joy, people are going to feel that. They're going to
Yeah.
notice it. And it's like you say, it's going to fall off. And that's the last thing you want to do, is put something out there and then letting it fall off, because I don't know, that just doesn't feel good, right? It just doesn't feel good to you. And then it's not going to build your following. So my advice would be, find that format that just really aligns with you and feels really good when you do it.
I like that. I like that. So
Yeah.
it's a lot simpler of an answer than people might be looking for, but it doesn't need to be overcomplicated.
No.
Like I know for myself, we do a lot of like these guest interviews, and then there's times that are probably once a month we do a solo episode where it's just me and the microphone. Sometimes we do it where it's because I'm going to be traveling. We have to do the solo episode so that we're consistent with our output. I really enjoy it. Like
Right?
I enjoy that, but you do have to find what you like. And it's funny that you brought up the idea of video, and you find video a little bit daunting. We actually had a question from one of our guests in our VIP room today, asking the question about, when it comes to emails and open rates, do you find that emails using video instead of just text in an email is going to create a better open rate? Any thoughts, insights on that? You may not have, I don't know.
Again, I think it depends on the content itself.
Ooh,
I
okay,
can
fair.
tell
I like
you,
that. Good answer.
my weekly newsletter, I don't put any video in there. I link to video sometimes. And I get anywhere from 55 to a 60% open rate. And that's pretty good,
That's
you know?
that's awesome.
So yeah. So I think it depends on the content,
There
video
you
for
go. Okay.
video's sake it doesn't work.
Fair. I like that. I like that. We've said to people when they're doing the CMAs to their clients, not to the
Yeah.
stranger, but the clients, include a video in the email
Yep.
and just talk to the people. You know them, they know you, which just adds another element.
Yes.
But there is something about getting comfortable on video. And then again, when you don't want it to feel daunting. It's got to feel normal. It's got to feel natural.
Yes.
But at the same time, I will back that up and say to anybody who's like, well, I don't do a lot of it now. I'm not really sure. I probably won't feel comfortable, natural. Look, if it's something you want to do more of, then you do need to start somewhere. And the first time around the block isn't going to be the easiest, but it will become easier as you continue to
Exactly.
do it.
It's
Right?
like exercising a new muscle.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
So, Christine, if somebody's feeling stuck, if they're feeling, unclear on what direction to take, because again, today's all been about, branding with impact and how to build that real estate brand that people know, like, and trust. If somebody's feeling like they don't know what to do from today, right now, what is that first step you would say that they should take to sort of get a little bit more clarity and
Yeah.
maybe build out that momentum for themselves?
Yeah. I think there are two things that people can always do to sort of get the ball rolling.
Cool.
The first one is a digital audit. And I recommend people do this every 6 months. The first time takes the longest. But then if you just check in every 6 months and make sure everything is where it needs to be and all the information is correct, it doesn't take as long. But looking at every platform, Googling yourself, making sure that your Google business profile is up to date, your website, all your social media platforms, your email signature, anywhere that all the third-party portals, anywhere that you might show up online, you want to make sure that you are up to date and that all the information is correct. That is the very first thing. That's like, people are going to Google you. And if you don't look like you're in business or you've got like 5 phone numbers out there, it looks sloppy, so you want to make sure that's, in line. And then the second thing is to perform a SWOT analysis. If you do nothing else, a SWOT analysis will really help you to understand where to focus your business and your plan, and where to delegate. And so for those who may not be familiar with a SWOT analysis, it means strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Strengths and weaknesses are anything internal to you. Like strengths are all the things that you're really, really good at. Weaknesses are the things that you just, not so much that you're not good at, but that you hate doing, and that you procrastinate. And then your threats and opportunities are all external factors. Like what external factors are happening out there that either you can't control, or maybe there's an opportunity that you can take advantage of. And I think if you sit down and make 4 quadrants and do that work, just spend a half an hour, all of a sudden ideas are going to start to percolate about where you should start to focus building relationships, building know, like, and trust, and attracting the dream clients that really you want to work with.
I like that. Some good actionable takeaways for everybody. So what would you say to anybody then if they said, but Christine, I can't?
Oh, yes, you can. I say that to my son. Don't tell me you can't. You can. Just take one step at a time. One step at a time. And I'm always here to help anybody.
Too simple. Too simple. So you mentioned you've got a question you like to ask at the end of all of your shows.
Yeah.
Me too. A little bit different, but I'm curious to know what your answer is. You have gone through your day. You've done everything you had to do in a day. How do you know at the end of the day that it's been a successful day for you?
Oh my God, that is a great question. How do I know at the end of the day that it's been a successful day? God, that's a great question. Not all days produce what I want them to produce, right? That's true for all of us.
Yep, absolutely.
And so I think for me, if I have honestly done my best and done everything that I can to make my business run, to help my family, to keep my body healthy, even if it's not a perfect day, then I know that it's been a good day.
I love that. It's amazing how deep that question can take people. And it is amazing how nobody talks about money. And I continue to say that. And so for those of you loyal listeners, you hear me like a broken record say that at the end of every show, it still doesn't revolve around money.
Yeah.
We have such a hard time every day defining what success looks like. We count our dollars as hunters based or our success based on dollars, based on transactions. And I get it. Don't want to downplay money, but when I ask the question about success, just as you did, people talk about thyself, they talk about family, they talk about doing the best they could.
Yeah.
Anyways, I love your answer. I love
Yeah.
that.
Oh, thank you.
Christine, any final words of wisdom? Where can people find you? How can they connect with you further? The podcast, your website, and just any final words before we sign off today.
Oh, yeah. So I'm on all the socials at Christine Carlo George. My website is postandbeamcreative.com. And I would love to connect. So if people are watching or listening, I would love to connect online. So Christine Carlo George is where I am on all the socials.
Amazing. I encourage you all to connect with Christine. Definitely reach out. I know we were connected through our good friend Katie Lance, who's an absolute genius when it comes to social media and just an all around amazing person.
Totally.
But she was adamant that you and I needed to connect, and it's evident we can see why. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Talk about building a know you, like you, and trust you. I can't thank you enough for making the time to join us on the MindShare podcast today, and I am looking forward to doing it again. But roles reversed the next time around.
Me too. My pleasure. Thank you so much. It's been just such a privilege to be here.
Thanks, Christine. Thank you. Have an awesome day, and we will talk to you very shortly. That is a wrap on another episode of the MindShare Podcast, another amazing episode of the MindShare Podcast. Thank you again to Christine George for dropping value after value today. If you are serious about growing a brand that cuts through the noise, that attracts the right clients, and helps you build real trust in this industry, take what you heard today, start putting it into action. And of course, if you have questions about it, you can always reach out to me. I'm going to encourage you as well. Definitely reach out to Christine, because let's face it, if people don't know you, if they don't like you, if they don't trust you, they're not going to be working with you. It's that simple, but when you get it right, your brand becomes the best lead magnet you can possibly have. So if this episode helped you get clarity, get you fired up, here's what I want you to do next. hit subscribe so you never miss another episode of this podcast. Leave us a review. Go over to ratethispodcast.com/mindshare 101. Again, if you're on an iPhone or Android, that link will take you directly to, your probably your, most favorite podcast platform. We'd love if you left us a nice 5 stars and a review of the show itself. And of course, share this episode, with any of your fellow colleagues that are out there that need to hear it, that you think could benefit from it, just to help them take their market to the next level. Because again, to build trust, to build likability, to build rapport, when you help other people, you will turn around and be helped by others. For more tools, more training, and more real estate marketing strategies, head on over to mindshare101.com. While you're there, do not forget to download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle so that you can build more mind share to get more market share, as well as learn more about joining the revolution. Be sure to connect with me on Facebook and TikTok at MindShare 101 and on Instagram at David Greenspan 101. For any inquiries, just get in touch with us today. Send me a DM. Love chatting with everybody. Just before we sign off, of course, I want to say a big thank you to Kits Keep in Touch Systems, REM Real Estate Magazine, and Revel Realty for the continued support of the show. Until next time, keep building that mind share because it will equal the market share. This has been another episode of the MindShare Podcast. Thank you for tuning in.